Well, hello everyone. It's your girl Gabrielle from A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. Welcome to the seventh episode of Hot Topics, where we talk real talk about things that are happening in education, employment, physical health, mental health, social services, psychology, finance, or anything else that's steamy. So we have a repeat hot topic today. Our our hot topic today is technology and education. And I just want to point out that we like to repeat topics here because there are multiple perspectives for one topic. So don't be alarmed if you see the same topic over and over. Just know that there are different takes on it, and we definitely want to have diverse views. So, my guest today is Lauren Varlack. She will be helping me out today. And let me tell you a little bit about her. So she calls herself the Edupreneur's Educator. This means that she is an educator slash teacher helping Black women edupreneurs to take the path to become the most bold, daring, and impactful educators in their online brands. The journey started when she was feeling like she was hiding in the background, doing the bare minimum because she felt like she didn't know enough or have enough to be bold and seen in life, career, and business. She created a quiz called Brand Ya Flava that allowed her to dive deep into the strengths of her personality, passion for teaching, and purpose and sharing it, and that has catapulted her brand. Today, she helps Black women like herself take the journey to disrupt the online education space by using their expertise to educate the masses for massive impact through their courses. So, Lauren, welcome to Hot Topics.
Thank you. Welcome. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Of course. All right. Awesome. Right. So we were talking, and you have an interesting perspective in technology in schools, technology in education. So please, please, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Awesome. So as far as technology in schools, I think what's happening here in our 21st century is the idea of how technology looked has changed. Technology and realize because I'm a history teacher by day, right? So I put on my history teacher super cape during the day, and then during the night I have the Edupreneurs cape. So the way I see technology is different. So during like the 1900s, or we could say the 1800s and so forth, when we had the Industrial Revolution, technology could have been mass books, right? Because they did not have the advent, or they did not have the technology. If we're talking about, the printing press and so forth, they did not have that technology until then to mass produce books. So that would have been their technology, right? But as we move on today, technology and what we see has changed to the form where books and so forth are now in the hands of a smartphone or a tablet or a laptop or a computer. We no longer have to have per se paper books, and it's out. Actually, we have a choice now. So in schools, I see a lot of schools are moving more towards using technology instead of shunning it away, and trying to find different ways so that students can embrace technology in a fruitful way, rather than just throwing the baby out with the bathwater per se, and saying, no, you cannot use technology at all. I think it's becoming more embraced in the education space, definitely.
So how do you think it is changing education for the better, for the worse, or is it about the same?
In a sense, I think it's changing education for the better. Because now students, we have access to tons of information that we didn't have before. especially when it comes to research, when it comes to connecting with others, collaboration, connecting with others, especially on a global realm. Before, I don't know if y'all remember, but I remember whenever we had to do a research paper, right? Before, when we didn't have the internet, you would have to go in that library, you would have to look up in the card catalog, and you would have to drag out all of these encyclopedias and have it on the desk and research every single encyclopedia to get your research paper done. Now, that entire encyclopedia is on your laptop because you can just go on Google, type in a query or keyword search, and tons of information pops up. So the deal right now is not, I think it's a great thing that we're moving towards that space where, students can be able to do that type of research and have that access to tons of information and have access to tons of people to share their stories, their experience, and so forth. Now it's the case is teaching how to filter the noise, right? How do we look at the information that's valid, that you can use for peer research, for quality research and content, rather than that's skewed and, very, sort of biased, that you can say, okay, well, I know this is biased. Maybe I may not want to place this in my research, and or vice versa. Maybe they want to place it in their research to show the bias. That to me has to be distinguished in the technological age that we're in education now.
So you're currently a teacher, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So now that all this technology is being integrated in the schools, so things like smart boards and Google Classroom, and so by technology, I mean a lot more computers, I guess,
Yeah.
a lot more computerized things. So do you find yourself having to learn these new softwares, or did you already know it, or is there a special training, or how is that working out?
Yeah, definitely. As a matter of fact, last Friday, we're moving towards using Canvas. Canvas is a learning management system. That's pretty good. So now I had to do a full crash course on Canvas. Because some of the business teacher, the CTE teachers, which are, those that teach business and business management and so forth, they've been using Canvas quite a bit. But now they're trying to move the entire district that I teach at into using Canvas, where we used to use Teams, Microsoft Teams. However, Microsoft Teams was not necessarily built for education. It was built for business and business collaboration. So now, that learning curve that we have to do, it's interesting because it has to be quick. It has to be quick. And for the most part, I find myself really digging in and trying to learn the system. And I think in a sense, that's a good thing, because the more it fosters that protocol of trying to learn more and not sitting on your laurels and saying, okay, I know all of this. I got this together. I got it. I got my lesson plans done. Everything is done. But now you have this new system, and now it throws you into this loop and saying, oh, I don't know everything. Now I do have to learn something new. And that's great, because for me, I think educators are learners and learners are educators. So we have to continue learning. As an educator, as a teacher, we still have to continue learning, because that's our process. That's the way we're able to teach. So yeah, I enjoy Microsoft Teams. There were certain kinks and things that as an educator I found was annoying, but moving to Canvas and seeing the capabilities in Canvas, and I've used Google Classroom before just for my own business. That was great to use. and with the functionalities of just self-grading was awesome. um, but yeah, a lot of the technology that I'm seeing that's coming out, especially for EdTech. EdTech has become such a big industry. And just trying to come up with different technologies that help to ease the the day-to-day for teachers and educators. It's amazing what's coming up. Different things like Nearpod, Peer Deck. I use Edpuzzle a lot. Those are awesome tools for teaching. And it's really engaging for the students as well. So I'm looking forward to see what's coming up in EdTech as well.
Sorry. All right. So, I mean, that's interesting that you brought up that, there's all these different programs and tools that you have to learn. And then you also brought up the EdTech industry. So how do you think, with what happened with COVID and remote learning now, so how do you think the EdTech industry will affect schools going forward?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. I think it's going to be a big industry for education. I think technologically wise, I'm just saying for y'all, if you want to invest in something, look into EdTech. I'm serious, because I think that's how prevalent it's going to be. Because of what happened with COVID, it's almost like the entire nation, and I'm just talking for the United States, not, if we have to look at it, the world itself, but if you just had to look at the microcosm, just the eye of the United States, the entire United States and its schools, those districts had to switch instantly to a virtual digital setting of learning, and tools in place or certain technology in place already, such as Google Classroom, such as Teams or Canvas or Schoology, and all of these different types of learning management systems that are apparent. Of you have Blackboard, Collaborate, all of these different types of learning management systems, because they were in place already. It made it a bit easier to transition to that virtual state. Now, and I always mention this to my peer teachers and so forth. Imagine if we were in a place back in the 90s, back in the 80s, when this happened. It probably would have looked a lot different. I know it would have looked a lot different, because we were just at the advent of internet, and more than likely it would have had to been some type of mail correspondence. It would have looked a lot different. So I think in the future, just outright learning management systems in K-12, education, or even in post-secondary education, that is not going away ever, because it was, district sees that as a great opportunity, as an emergency, backup. So if schools are not able to be present physically, then we're gonna have to move to a virtual setting. And I don't think that's going anywhere. So it's gonna be seen as that emergency standby, just in case of, anything, disasters, diseases, pandemics, anything like that.
Right, right. So now bringing it back into the school itself with all of these technologies that's coming in, all these programs, all these gadgets, so to speak. So what do you think about all these things being incorporated into education and the impact on kids developmentally? Because it's not just the older students, it's the younger students as well, the 3-year-olds and the 4-year-olds and the 5-year-olds. And, they're at the early stage of development. So what's your take on that?
That's a great question. And for early childhood or early childhood education, I think getting them interested or getting them into ed tech at a young age is fine as long as it's structured. Because I don't think that kids at that young age should be on ed tech on a long period of time, because then they lose their sense of play. And play is important, especially at, for any age. Play is just important, period. But having that sense of discovery, having that sense of wonderment and curiosity and so forth, just on, natural things outside of tech is important for early childhood education. So I think having it structured by the educator, by the teacher is important, where they have structured time and saying, okay, we're going to use maybe the tablets and, do something on the tablet that's fun, maybe engaging. And then after that structured time, then it's, back to discovery and play and interacting and socialization, that type of thing. As students get older and having that access to need that information, needing that research to create content, then, more technology and more technological resources can be introduced. But at a younger stage, then I think it needs to be, and even so at the older stage, it should be structured still should be structured. Even at the high school level where I teach, I think it's still, it should be still structured. And in my classroom, I make it apparent that it's going to be structured. It's like, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to use this at this time. And then at a different time, maybe we'll do something written or different research, but, it has to be structured.
So when you say structured, you mean like planned out. So we're going to do 2 hours with the tablet and then 2 hours writing on pen and paper. That's what you mean?
Yes. It should be, yeah, documented and having that set time. So for example, if a teacher is creating their lesson plan and so forth, maybe there may be a set time where you find a great software system, like I know on the elementary level, especially with my son, they use the smartboard online system a lot. And they may have used it for math, because it was really interactive and they were able to play games and so forth on it using the math with smartboard online. And that was helpful and that was great, but the teacher had a set time and saying, okay, you're going to use, smartboard online at this time, and then we're going to go back to, doing rote things, doing discovery, sort of things. So yeah, that's kind of what I mean by structured. In my classroom, and I know this is a big thing with cell phones, but in my classroom last year, my kids were able to use their cell phones because I had it set where their assignments, whether it was in like technology like Edpuzzle, where they could watch videos and then answer questions, or we were reviewing something from a short lecture via Teams, Microsoft Teams, they were able to access it from their phone, or if they had a laptop or a tablet or something like that. So yeah, having that structured space where technology is encouraged and is used, and also another point where you use technology to foster collaboration, because I think that's important. So anything where the technology is used to, have group work, so they can use the technology, maybe having a discussion board or group discussion collaboration board where they can talk amongst each other, give feedback as a student, so be able to produce a product or produce some type of content. that could be used as well. But yeah, it should be structured and monitored.
So now let's talk about COVID again. So
Mhm.
how how has things been for you as a teacher, during COVID, even now? I don't want to say post-COVID, we're still kind of in
Right.
it, but uh,
Yeah.
I mean, for lack of a better term, post-COVID. So during COVID and post-COVID, how has things been for you as a teacher?
Um, COVID was an interesting year. COVID 2019, 2020, it was rough. It was rough. Not gonna lie, it was a rough year. Um, and because a lot of students were in and out, and absences, some students had to be quarantined. And when they were quarantined, they had to stay out for maybe a week, 2 weeks. So it took a lot of time away from instruction. So I found myself, having to go back and maybe reteach something, redo lectures, redo us, activities, having, that back and forth. So that was an interesting year and very taxing. Very interesting. I relied a lot on the technology that I had available to me. So that was a saving grace, to be honest. This year, everybody's coming back. All of the students will be back. So it'll be all face to face. They're not required to wear a mask. Okay, it can be optional. So navigating that aspect with making sure that I do things that I used to do, which was before COVID, pre-COVID, I did a lot of group work. I did a lot of project-based learning and so forth. So figuring out that aspect of group work and making sure I still kind of maintain distance, because I don't want my kids to be too close to each other. And with the mask situation, it's going to be a little bit tricky. But I'm still looking forward to seeing what's gonna happen this year, now that everyone is back. And then also to, I guess for the first week, we're more focusing on getting students ready and getting them acclimated to the school environment again. So that first, I literally taking out a full week just to get their minds and their spirit and their hearts and in focus and being back in physical school again, which is good, without having to think about or deal with anything like homework or content or anything like that. So that's a good idea. Again, I'm gonna be relying on my technology because I'm gonna need it, because I can foresee that there's gonna be some issues with quarantine because of the Delta variant. But trying to make sure that those things are in place so that if a student does have to go in quarantine or is there some form of absence, they do have their learning management system like Canvas to go in there, see what we did, see where we're at, complete assignments, and still be on task when they get back into the class. So hopefully that should help.
So now, do you think during post-COVID that students were so used to being on their tablets and learning remotely, and now they have to return to in-person learning? So I know that's going to be a tough transition in itself, but do you think we will continue with the remote learning now in this post-COVID area, or even partially incorporated somehow?
Yeah, I do think it's going to be partially incorporated. Um, and then some parents will still have the option to have their children attend a virtual school if they choose to. So there are options for virtual school learning. outside of that, particular face-to-face school. However, I think some of the parents that may be choosing to go to a virtual school may have a rude awakening, because it's not like what we experienced during that peak COVID time, right? Yeah, students are going to have a big awakening, because virtual school is very much driven. It's very independent focused. It's a lot like taking a college course. And if the student is not very independent and not very aware of their schedule and focusing and so forth, it may be a hard time for them to make sure they're on task and what have you. So I think there is going to be, and then also too with this, the variant that we have now, there's going to be a need to have that partial remote learning just in case. I don't think it's going to be with Zoom calls and so forth, but at least having a backup so that students can see where, where the teacher is at, and having those assignments in place so that they can see, okay, this is where we're at, I can complete this assignment, I can see where we're at, and when I come back, if I still have questions, I'm at least at some level of understanding that I can get questions and feedback on my assignments so that I can be on task or on schedule. So I think that's the kind of thing that they're looking at now. For core content areas like math and English and science is it's going to be tricky, because a lot of the students that were remote learning, they learn some aspects, because a lot of those things are skill build, so it's pace, you have to climb that success path of going up, and learning certain skills to build, and some of those skills may not have been practiced enough when they were at home, because some of those kids, they, as we all know, some of those kids, they may have said that they were on Zoom, but they they may have a little card or something up, playing like they are on a Zoom but doing something else, playing PlayStation or something. But so it's gonna, now that they're returning back face to face, there's gonna be a lot of retraining, a lot of relearning the physical aspect of being back in school, learning to work with their peers again, learning to have that practice time of being in school and training themselves to be in school, getting up and getting dressed and getting ready to go to school. Those types of things, it's going to be a lot of practice, a lot of practice that has to come in on that end. Yeah, and I think and just for speaking with teachers, just from a teacher to teacher's perspective, it's going to require us to have a lot of patience, because a lot of them they forgot, a lot of them have been home for a full year of school. So it's going to require us to have a bit of patience to realize that they're now back in a physical sense and being face to face, and they have to get back on the pedals and start to learn how to pedal again in that aspect.
That's a very good point. Excuse me, that's a very good point. And that the fact that during the remote learning, kids forgot how to, well, I don't want to say forgot, but when you go to in-person school, you have to get dressed, you have to wake up at a certain time, you have to commute to school, there's all these things that go with it. And with the remote learning, I mean, yeah, you still have to get up at a certain time, but it's not like you're in front the computer for 6 hours continually. Like there's little breaks in between classes.
Right.
So it's we have to relearn, they have to relearn those behaviors.
Right.
Pretty much. So I wanted to go back to what you said earlier about virtual school and that the
Mhm.
parents will have a rude awakening. So there, I want to emphasize your point that there is a distinction between remote learning and virtual school.
Yeah, there is a big difference between remote learning, which was what was done um, during COVID, I call it peak COVID because we're still in COVID, but peak COVID, that was remote learning. Virtual school is something that's totally different because I've experienced what virtual school was like because my eldest son was in virtual school for about maybe 1 or 2 years, and it's intense. It's a lot. It's a lot of stuff. Um, Making sure that they have a certain schedule in place. They have a certain time frame that they have to do things. Um, it's like I said, it's a lot like having a college course or having, a college, you're pursuing a college career or degree. But it's just based on a K to 12 aspect. So for parents that are considering and saying, okay, well, I would really want my child or my teen or what have you to attend a virtual school, just realize that when they attend, the schedule is much different than having remote learning where the teacher is there and giving instruction. Um, and also in remote learning, it's a little bit more engaged and they're more how can I say, more in depth in terms of trying to make sure that the student has their assignments done and having the schedule in place for them. It's a lot different in virtual school. What they're going to just tell you this is what it is. Okay, they would have the live sessions available, but they're going to depend on you to make sure, or the student to make sure that they have their schedule in place, making sure that they are up on their assignment tasks, making sure that they get their stuff done. So yeah, it's it's quite different, quite different.
So let me ask you this. Do you think there is such thing as too much technology in schools?
Hmm. I don't think so. Um, I don't think there's too much technology. I think there is not enough management of technology. Um, Technology can be very useful in a school because, quite frankly, if we look at our current workspace and our current work systems, even for those of us that are in business or entrepreneurs or in corporate, retail, what have you, those jobs and those careers, those businesses are moving towards tech. And they're expecting that whomever that they hire has some idea about navigating certain technologies. Um, Even up to this day, like if I have students that work part-time and they have to know how to manage the point of sale system, right? That's technology. It's no longer where you have a cash register that is manual based. It's all based on electronic SKUs and looking up information on their database, their warehouse database from a smartphone or something like that, or a smart tablet. So yeah, I don't think there's too much technology per se. I think if it's managed well by, at administration, then it's effective. But if it's not managed well, if it's, if there's no structure, if there's no protocols, there are no procedures available, then yeah, there's going to be too much.
And then another thing too is parents have to catch up to it because, they're introducing it to the kids, but, the parents have to learn it themselves and they have to figure it out. So
Exactly. Yeah. That's a whole nother, that's a whole nother situation with parents having to learn the technology, especially if, for parents or, even grandparents that may not have been in that space of, having or on that, technology bubble that happened. Um, so they have to, it's quite a learning curve for them. And I think administrations, especially school administrations, whether post or, K-12, um, they're gonna have to come up with different ways to help parents be educated on these technologies, because it's honestly, it's not going away. It's going to be here. They're going to be here forever and ever and ever. Amen. But having some way that they can teach parents and saying, okay, well, this is a new technology that we're moving to. This is what our students are going to be learning. Have a, have a look at it, play with it, see what it looks like, things like that. So parents are seeing it and they're like, what am I supposed to do? Because that's kind of what happened at peak COVID. At peak COVID, we were thrown into, virtual learning, and now districts had to say, okay, well, this is the platform that we're using. Your kids are going to have to come on here and they're going to learn from this platform. And parents are like, what? They're like, I've never used this platform before. How are you supposed to log in? How are you supposed to hear your teacher? Where is your teacher? Blah, blah, blah. Because, that training and that protocol was not there. So those procedures, I think, for administration should be in place so that they can have parents that are at least aware of the basics. And if they're aware of the basics, then I'm sure even their kids can teach them eventually, which I've seen a lot with my son. My son was with his grandpa and his grandma, and he was teaching him, no, Mom, you gotta go here. No, Papa, you gotta go here. You gotta go there. And my dad was learning right along with them, and so was my mom. So I think that's the case, being open for administrations to be aware and open to the fact that parents do need to have this training in the technology as well. And then having the patience with the students that are learning this new technology, to have that patience with them, and even allowing the students themselves to become the teachers to help their parents, and vice versa.
So to learn along with them. So, and not to be afraid of
Right,
the
exactly.
technology. Yeah.
Yeah, don't be afraid of the technology. Just embrace it a bit, and just learn along with them. You'd be able to see some great possibilities and great things coming out from students when they're learning from technology, and they're using technology to just foster new things and new ideas and new growth.
All right. All right. So we're just about to wrap up here. So what advice do you have to the people listening right now? Is there any words of advice you would like to give?
Yeah, words of advice. As far as technology and education is concerned, just be aware that it's not going anywhere. From a K-12 perspective, post-secondary perspective, technology is going to be there, and it's going to be prevalent in education, because now it opens up the space for everyone to learn, and for everyone to learn from each other without having those borders, world borders. So we can learn from someone in Africa or learn from someone in Asia, and now it opens up those borders to each other. And also too, it also opens us that if you're not even a teacher or an educator, you can be, because now we have the internet, and now you can, if you have a great skill or you have great knowledge in something, you can be an educator and a teacher outside of the four walls of K-12 or post-secondary ed, and have your own courses, have your own programs, have your own memberships, and educate in that manner too. So education has now become outside of the four walls of a classroom. Education is now in the atmosphere on an internet world wide web perspective, and now anyone with the capability and the understanding of and a true passion for learning and educating can become an educator, and that's awesome.
Yes, that is awesome. That is amazing. All right, Miss Varlack, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank
So
you.
you guys listening right now, Lauren Varlack, she is promoting her Edupreneur quiz called the Brand Flava quiz, right, which I referenced earlier. It helps you find out what your Edupreneur personality is and how you can use it to attract the students who want to learn from you as well. And her website is Brandy a Flava,
Yeah, Brand.
brandyaflava.com.
Mm-hmm.
And all that will be listed in the bio, of course. And of course, and she has a book that she also wants to promote. Tell us about your book.
Yes, this is my book. I hope you can see it. It's called Brand Ya Flava, the same thing as the website, Brand Ya Flava. And it's a book for entrepreneurs. So if you have a passion for teaching and a passion for educating in your business brand, then you are an edupreneur. And I help you brand yourself as an entrepreneur, especially as a Black woman. You may think like me before I thought that my expertise was not enough, that I didn't have the wherewithal to educate or to share what I knew about business, because I'm like, who am I to do that? Who am I to teach about this stuff? But I realized that I do have those gifts. I do have that talent, and you can build a business through education, and it can be a successful business. And I teach you how to brand yourself to be this bold, daring, and impactful edupreneur in your business. And the Brand Flava quiz and the Brand Ya Flava book will help you do all of that.
Awesome, awesome. And where can people buy your book?
It is on Amazon. You can go on Amazon and look up Brand Ya Flava. Just like I always said, Brand Ya Flava, because we all got flavor. We all got that special sauce that we used to teach and we used to be ourselves in. And you can find that on Amazon, and you can also find it on my website, brandyaflava.com as well.
Awesome, awesome. So go visit her website and go get that book. So guys, thank you for joining us today. Please check out our YouTube channel for more videos and clips, and don't forget to subscribe. You can also find us a Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please tune in next time for the next episode of Hot Topics. Signing off. Bye.
Bye.